Welcome to Let's Talk Higher Ed Careers, a podcast of Herc Jobs. I'm Jessica Wise, Co-Executive Director and Director of Programs at the Higher Education Recruitment Consortium, also known as HERC. This show is designed to help you explore, launch, and grow a career in higher education. Each episode features insights from higher education professionals, career coaches, and HR experts who are going to share real stories and practical tips for navigating the higher education job market. Whether you're just getting started or ready to move to your next career position, we're here to help you discover opportunities and build a fulfilling career in higher education. Today, we're joined by Yvonne Wojcicki, Executive Director of Campus Life Safety and Regulation Compliance at Columbia University Irving Medical Center. I want to share a bit about her background with you. Yvonne is a campus safety and regulation compliance leader with more than 15 years of experience in complex academic medical environments. At Columbia University Irving Medical Center, she oversees life safety programs, fire safety program operations, and regulatory compliance across a large urban campus, leading teams focused on emergency preparedness and operational readiness. Her background spans higher education, healthcare, and environmental management with expertise in regulatory interpretation, facilities operations, and emergency management and strategic planning. Outside of her work, Yvonne is an avid traveler, sunflower lover, and food enthusiast. She's also known for her Barbie and elephant collections. I love that so much. We're so pleased to have you here with us today, and we're so excited to talk about your career journey.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So before we get in, I read your job description, but I would love for you to share what that really means for folks. So tell us a little bit more about what you do and where you work.
Yeah, it's I grew into this job as many safety professionals do. It kind of grows up around you. I actually started my career in healthcare and I was a clinical laboratory scientist or a laboratory tech. And then there's just so much safety involved in it. But I was a bench tech, loved it, probably would have retired from my hospital. I loved it so much, but over time, I saw a lot of a need to build on laboratory safety, and I kind of was promoted into positions that did just that and learned a lot. It's a lot of it is on the job, but one thing about being in New York City is that you can't, every day there's a new local law and there's so much regulation. So aside from just being in the healthcare sector and all of the regulations and the agencies that govern you in the healthcare sector, there's New York City. So there's a lot to learn. It's great to network, which is one of the things that I absolutely promote. You learn so much talking to others. And I grew very, very interested in it. And when I left my career at a hospital that soon closed, I discovered higher education, and I've been working here, my first higher education position, but I'm here for 17 years and I absolutely love it. And it's it's safety. There's a lot of safety professionals. It's great that within departments, whether they're clinical or research, there are people that also do dabble in it because there's just so much regulation. And that's where I got where I am and, building on it every day.
Oh, that's so interesting. And especially for someone that might be at the bench right now, seeing a totally different career path for themselves that they might not have been aware of that this was even out there as a career opportunity. We know a lot, especially our first generation college students don't always have the breadth of those sort of knowledge of what might be available to them. So it's great to see that this is an option in that you could turn that knowledge into something else is exciting.
Yeah, I think you realize that when there's people that are looking to move on and they're building their resume, and I sit and I talk with them and I said, think about how much compliance or regulatory compliance you did in your day to day. What? I never did that. Yes, you did. And I think that's something that people don't realize they can do. And it is very interesting and it's very, very important in the world that we live in right now in every industry. So it's a growing field. I
Mhm.
think that I kind of fell into it, but I absolutely love it. And I do encourage people to explore it in different industries, different sectors besides higher education.
Yeah. Let's dig into that a little bit. So you have this experience from different sectors. Tell us a little bit about the transition into higher ed, some surprises, good, bad, kind of what you love about it,
Oh
what
gosh.
you're surprised you.
I always say that, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but I always say that the bedside doctor and the research doctor are not the same animal. So I think that was a little bit of a shock. Also structure. When you're in healthcare, very disciplined, very governed, and there's a structure around that. But I like higher education because I think there's decisions get made differently here. But coming from healthcare, I was able to bring those higher standards and apply them here. But like I said, I like there aren't that many layers or levels into making decisions in higher ed. They get made, supported or not supported, but either way, you do your job grows up around you as quickly as it does because you're in it and it's moving very, very fast.
Yeah, and that's a big difference between higher ed and other places. So you talked a little bit about this in terms of looking into the career. What are some of the other things that people should try to be kind of either capturing what they're doing already or trying to find additional experiences that could help them lead into a career similar to yours?
I think through the networking, like I said before, also there's a lot of great classes. If you're interested in emergency management, which is also that's something I carried over with me from healthcare, that sector, there's courses that are offered by FEMA. There's courses that are offered locally, nationally. There are emergency managers everywhere. And that is, again, the world that we live in right now, it's so important and it's fascinating and it's very, very interesting. I work for Columbia, so obviously a lot of people saw what happened to us. I don't work at the main campus, but it impacted us. And really changed the way that administratively we do things and made us revisit policies that have been in place for years that really needed to get modernized and dusted off. So there's reading, there are classes, and there's just a huge network of people in emergency management as well as in safety. Um,
Mhm.
there's there's so many conferences and opportunities, and I like the fact that there's a lot of overlap between sectors as well. So you could attend a
Mm.
higher education forum just as easily as you can a healthcare one.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I didn't think about that aspect of it, of the kind of interplay and kind of models between the two. I really like your point around networking. One of the things that we've been talking with a lot of our job seekers about is just informational interviews, because this is, again, one of those jobs that people might not even realize that's out there. What is it really? So I'm almost going to take this as an informational interview with you today, a proxy for some of our job seekers. So one of the things that's come up for me is kind of what does your day look like? What's your day-to-day work? It's such a little bit of a black box for those of us that are outside of your field.
I think the what's unique about my position is it really doesn't exist among the Ivies or many other higher education facilities, colleges, universities. It's more like environmental health and safety. So if you're someone coming from college and you're looking for a career and you like safety and regulatory compliance, environmental health and safety is probably the first place you should go. I didn't come in through that way. I actually came in through a vice president who thought that it would be great to have an ally on the inside of the facilities management department. So I'm facilities management and operations. So unlike environmental health and safety, they're my allies. They're right next door to me. They're a thriving, robust team. They spend a lot of time working within the research division, but I'm in facilities and I'm on the inside. So it's a unique position. You really won't see that apples to apples with Harvard or any of the other facilities, but people like me do exist. You just have to find them. Here I stand alone. I'm in the facilities department, and it's a great place to be because not only do it's so interesting, not only do I get to work with the frontline staff in their safety training, which is something I do every day. I sit across from meetings with architects and engineers. We talk about design and construction facilities. I'm really involved in contractor safety to make sure that everyone that we bring on site to perform a service for us in facilities management, as well as for the university, that they're compliant with our code, our guidelines that we've set forth and we promote. I'm in charge of fire safety operations. So not the sexy stuff, right? I'm in the basement with, and I love it, but I oversee fire safety operations. I make sure that our inspection, testing, and maintenance, which came natural for me coming from the laboratory setting, there's so much quality control. So it's really a very good fit. It's unique. It was built for me. I was the first in the role and I made it my own, but we do exist. We're people that are environmental health and safety. We may work in facilities management. We may work for public safety or security departments, but we're there. And you have to find us, but we're definitely an important part of the team.
That raises for me a little bit because so many positions are so unique to institutions. So you've described a very unique role. But if someone was looking for a job kind of similar to some of the things that you talked about, what sort of job search terms should they look for if they were really wanting to explore those opportunities that are posted or out there right now? Would
Site
it be
safety, yeah, site
site
safety
safety?
would be good, good one. I'd be careful with the word compliance because a lot of times you're kicked into legal departments, and if you don't
Hmm.
have a JD, which I don't, you might not find something, but environmental health and safety, site safety, regulatory compliance, facilities compliance, um, emergency management, that's a good one.
Hmm.
Those are buckets, sort of
Yeah.
where our professionals reside. And like I said, you'd be very, very surprised how much overlap. These days, a lot of people do a lot of things, wear a lot of hats, as they say. So I never spoken to a person in regulatory compliance that didn't dabble in emergency management, wherever organizations can pull people to work in that role, even if as another duty assigned, they do it. So that's how all of my folks that report to me, although they may be fire safety specialists, they all have an emergency management responsibility. Why not? That should
Yeah.
just makes us a more robust team of trained and competent individuals.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And thanks for those keywords because just trying to find, and we always tell people to go in and read a lot of job descriptions because of some of the nuances that you talked about, that it could change from institution to institution. And you had said earlier about being in New York City. I think that's also something that, that role is going to be much more dynamic and day to day than maybe a rural campus, for example. Or they might have other sets of safety concerns that you may not necessarily think about or have to deal with on a constant basis. So that's really helpful to get in there. I did want to ask also, let me think about oh, no, I was really struck by the idea when I was reading your description, I was thinking, what does that job really look like? And it sounds like you do a good mix of, the meetings and the writing and the email responses, but I imagine you're also interfacing with people quite a bit. So is that accurate that there's a lot of engagement with your role as well in terms of what the day-to-day looks like?
Absolutely. With the frontline staff, it's training. I think it's important that they don't always get their training online. Most of us around COVID, we switched to virtual training platforms, but there's nothing like being among the frontline staff, boots on the ground staff, where you can walk with them, shadow them, maybe show them something in real time, more of a practical training approach than just a virtual platform. So I love doing that. And like I said, I'm in the basement and that's where I belong. I walk around the staff, a lot of the staff that you don't see in higher education. We're the ones that we're doing snow removal right now. We're cleaning up floods from broken pipes. We're everywhere, but you really don't interact with us. But I do. I interact with the staff and I think it's important. I do speak to what I call customers or clients, which is when I'm involved in a remediation. I'm also the asbestos program coordinator here at this campus. So when we have remediation or a project that I'll spot check it. And if I do come across, individuals or customers, I'll interface with them as well. It's regulatory. This is a I guess an organization that's filled with scientists, right? So it is a little, I'm not gonna lie, it's a little, sometimes it's a little off-putting to talk to them about asbestos. You imagine that they know more than you'll ever know. So you got to get over that. But I do. I do like to interact. I still believe in the old school fire drills in person, which I do. My team and I, since I oversee campus life safety, we do the fire drills for the students, for the researchers. We're all the same when it comes to a fire drill. We all take in the information the same way. And I love that part of the job as well.
Yeah, you can imagine that it's probably hard to pull some scientists away from their bench for a fire drill, but we need to know how to do it and how to shut down appropriately. That's
Yeah.
a really good image there. So, what you talked about your team a little bit, and I'm wondering when you look to expand your team or bring new people on your team, what are some of the things that you're looking for? Maybe we can talk hard skills and soft skills with that. And where are you recruiting from?
Well, it's interesting. The last person that I hired actually came from the technical side, working in public safety. Um, he was already a member of the team, so this was more of a transfer from one position. But he never thought that he would qualify for it, but he did. He did. He worked in. He knew a lot about the regulatory compliance side because he was working in the tech area. And his job took him out into the field, so he knew about laws, standards, asbestos. And when he read the job description, he seemed like this was a long shot. This wasn't somebody that didn't, had that, didn't have the degree, so to speak, but he had the skills, which I believe very strongly skills are transferable. And you're never going to find that perfect person. I think he needed to be willing to learn, and I think he demonstrated that. So I say take the chance, and even if the job interests you, and just I always encourage people to go for it. I did. That's how I ended up here. And honestly, that's how I met him and found out that he was excellent, because I think he would easily be able to grasp the information. He didn't have to come with it, but he's got to learn it on the job. And I think that was the difference between a hire today versus back in the day. You don't realize you have to be very adaptable, because a lot of organizations ask you to do a lot more than just X every day. And I actually have his position listed as a safety compliance, site safety, and emergency manager. He's got the longest job title in the planet, because it was so hard for me to just tell him you're only going to do this, when I knew in
Yeah.
reality he wasn't. He was going to do a lot more. But it all matters. It all meshes together. And that's who I'm looking for, just someone who's got the ability to adapt. It's so
Yeah.
important today.
Yeah.
The other thing is he's got the technical background, which with today with AI, I'm a little behind the eight ball with that, but he's great. So take me to the next
Oh,
level. Take me to the next level. Look at my programs, look at my processes, my systems, your fresh eyes, and you've got the background. Where can we do better? Where can we digitize more? Where can we learn more? Where can we use TikTok and other tools and platforms that everyone's using and everyone's on today? And that's another big thing about my decision to hire him.
that brings in so many interesting bits because of the how I wouldn't have thought AI was really impacting kind of more than just productivity for you. So that's really exciting to think that these areas are growing. That's very interesting. And I really could not agree more with that transferable skills piece of it and the adaptability and really, being able to demonstrate that people can do that is part of what helps you get through the job cycle. So that's really I love to see that play out in reality. We talk to job seekers about that all the time, but it's wonderful to see that example there. What is one thing that you kind of didn't know about this role? Like if you like project, you said you were with Columbia for 17 years, is that right?
Yep.
So if you projected back, let's say 20 years ago, what's been the most surprising kind of aspect of this work or something that's really kind of changed the way that you view the role?
I think the coming from healthcare, there was definitely, as I said before, a culture shock. Higher ed's tough. It is, uh, I think also coming into facilities management is also something for a woman. I'm probably one of the first women in, I was the safety officer for the hospital that I worked at previously, and I was in the minority. There weren't that many women in the role. So I think as a woman, it was a little tough to come into this particular environment. Um, I'm going to just be honest and say it was a little bit of a boys' club, uh, to some degree. And so that was something that if I were to do this again, 17, yeah, if I would just go back in time, I would, I would be, it's hard, but confidence, you build confidence over time, but I would be slightly more confident to join them at the table and not as hesitant and not put off by some of the, just the customs that were in place there. Now, fast forward to today, I'm a team member and I feel it in my bones. I know I am a team member and an equal person, but I don't want to discourage people who are coming into the field, especially women or the younger generation. Just don't worry about it. Don't you guys call us dinosaurs, but we may appear that to be dinosaurs, but we want to hear your voice. Like I just said, young people know so much about so many things because they're just different and they've learned differently. So I want to hear it and I want you to be confident and proud of what you bring to the table. I would have told my younger self that if I could.
Oh, I love that so much. And especially when we're thinking about these gendered roles too, of coming in with that. Like look at the environment, assess it, and come in with your knowledge. I think that that's really, really strong advice. I want to circle back a little bit to the higher ed is tough and kind of explain that a little bit more for the audience and talk about ways that you've learned to kind of manage through the difference with for higher ed.
Uh, it's tough in that I think there's a lot of silos. Departments run differently, function differently. They're driven differently. When you're in healthcare, you're all there working towards the same goal, which is somebody's mom or somebody's baby. It doesn't matter what department you're all working towards the same goal, and you know that. Even if you're a custodian or the plumber, the house plumber, in higher education, I saw that different schools, for instance, run very, very independently. And when you're trying to bring a principle or something like fire safety, which, like I said, is universal, we all have to know this, regardless of what department you work in or what your job title is. It's tough to break down those silos. So that's why what I mean about tough. It's just the way the organization is. It's meant to be that way, I guess. It's something that you just have to know and then think of the most effective way to work with the individuals or to get your message across. And the good thing about being in Columbia is we have a lot of mechanisms for comms, right? For communication.
Mhm.
So I can reach schools the way that schools are meant to be reached. And I have to use whatever systems are in place. But I do know that it's a challenge to make sure that everyone at every level gets the amount of information. And like I said, in healthcare, I think it was just easier to disseminate
Yeah.
information from the safety side.
Interesting, yeah. And I think knowing about those silos is really kind of that setting that expectation that there are going to be those differences is really helpful for folks, especially people transferring into this from maybe less siloed institutions. I imagine things like your communication skills probably really got, used very, very well in your early years. And now that you kind of learned the system, that's a little bit better. Any other skills that you've really had to leverage to help navigate those silos?
Getting in front of people, as many opportunities as you can. Once you find out that people or talk to people, you realize they want you to come. I've been invited to speak to so many networks. So that's another thing. Words like networks and forums and groups and consortiums, and all of this language doesn't
Yeah.
exist in healthcare,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But when you get into higher education, there are so many different little pockets and groups of people, which is fine. But talk to them, because once you do, you realize they want you to come. Hey, Yvonne, come speak to us. Or Yvonne, that sounds like a great thing. Come and discuss that with us. And that just takes asking. So yeah, if you know that you're walking into an organization where you're hearing right out off the bat, well, this is the way we do things, or this is the way that we run, or this, just don't let that stop you from, once you get your feet on the ground and you're you're willing to work with them, just don't let that stop you from asking, hey, I want to get before your people. When can I meet with your group? We can talk about X, Y, and Z. And I think that that's a very, very helpful,
Yeah.
and surprising.
Yeah.
Surprising.
And that goes back to what you're saying about your new hire, that mix of skills. So having the technical skills, but also having that ability to kind of just talk about these things that are in a way that people can understand and kind of put in their lives for safety purposes is really important.
I'm a little old school, but I feel when it comes to things like safety and regulatory compliance, it's just not something you can convey just by email alone. I really do think that that would be something that might challenge people who have been used to
Hmm.
having jobs where they don't leave their desk or they work remotely. This is not that. This is,
Hmm.
my day can change on a dime, as they say. And I'm here every day because I have to be, right? Regulatory inspectors don't, they're going to come in. They still
Yeah.
walk the beat and they still come
Yeah.
in. So that's another thing I've tried, and I really made sure with my last hire that he realized you're going to be here 5 days a week.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm going to need you to respond to something. And it's not a desk job per se. There's a lot that requires you to be out in the field
Hmm.
and lay eyes on things. And, there's just, I want to make the desk part the easy part, but I don't want to take away of the human part and the fact that there's still a need to walk and talk and look. And that's regulatory compliance and safety in general.
Yeah, I think that's really appealing because there are plenty of job seekers that just want remote work, but a lot of people, if they're going to be on site, they want to have an impact. And what you're describing, really, you can just imagine the amount of information you all are getting from, walking a basement or whatever else it might be, going into a new building or seeing that part of it. That's really, um, it if you're going to be there, this sort of work where you're engaging with people and really having impact is probably where the sweet spot is. Yvonne, is there anything else that you want to leave with our job seekers about this role or moving into higher ed?
Uh, Come in, we want you. I think, for all the reasons I described, it's a challenging environment, but we need people. And I think that it's not one of those positions, or it's not one of those fields where you're going to be replaced with AI, so don't worry about it. But we're looking for ways to recruit people and to get people into our fields, especially facilities management. We have a lot of longevity and a lot of people that are retiring out or planning on retiring, and we're trying to get young people who are interested in the trades. So, I'm always going to promote that and just say, learn a trade, come on in, apply. But we're always looking for people. And like I said, just don't think you can't do it. Read the job description. Believe me, read it and reread it. You will definitely say, hey, if this is something that I think I can do, then go for it. Go for it.
Oh, that's so great. And I can just imagine people that might not have ever thought about higher ed. This is a space where they can, I'm thinking about some of our veterans, for example, that don't always think about higher ed as a career
Oh my
spot.
gosh, we love the veterans. We want the veterans. So this is perfect for
Perfect.
veterans.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, for
So they
sure.
they know all about safety, right? And especially, yeah,
Absolutely. I
yeah.
have two veterans on my team, and I thank
I'm
God
not
for them every
surprised.
day because, there's the work ethic cannot be matched.
True,
But
true.
there's a lot of positions in higher education that are perfect. uh,
Mhm.
in these areas. So
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, wonderful. A great big thank you to you, Yvonne, for being part of today's episode. I didn't know about your role before today. I mean, I knew that you existed and the roles existed, but this is really wonderful to get kind of a behind the scenes scope of what this job's really like. And I'm really glad to know that you're out there and you're keeping your staff and folks safe, your students safe as well. If from our audience, if you're exploring starting or growing a career in higher education, Herc Jobs is here to support you. And a lot of the advice that you heard from Yvonne today, you can also find resources similar to that on our website, how to do an informational interview, going in and reading job descriptions, thinking about transferable skill sets, talking about with other groups on campus. So really good resources to echo what Yvonne had to say today. You can find those resources at hercjobs.org. You can also find the job descriptions and job opportunities so you could read those. Yvonne gave us some great keywords earlier on the session, and those would be great ones to plop in, get some job descriptions, and then learn more about this really amazing career pathway. Join us next time on Let's Talk Higher Ed Careers for more real stories and practical advice and these personal connections with folks working in higher ed. Yvonne, thank you so much.